All right, guys. So you guys voted for this video. Looks exciting. It's for a Turkey Tom video, and it's called YouTube's Degenerate Furry Therapist. Sounds like my kind of therapist. Am I right? Yeah. So anyway, let's get this started. And yeah, if you find any moment in this video entertaining in any capacity, I'll give a little timestamp down below. Help you out a lot. Thanks. Let's get this party started. Let's go.
Imagine if you went to therapy and your counselor turned out to be a polyamorous transgender furry with multiple personalities.
I think that maybe I probably wouldn't resonate with that therapist. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you kind of want to get a therapist like yourself. So maybe this person might not work out so much for that.
No need to imagine. You're about to find out. The person you're seeing is an online content creator and mental health counselor who goes by the name of Poppy. And
mental health counselor? What does that mean? Does that mean that they're a licensed therapist, or what is that? What does a mental health counselor mean? Why aren't these dead?
In the past few years, they've been involved in a mire of drama and allegations. But before being Poppy, they were Joshua. And
damn. That's a pretty good transition, I'm just gonna say. Like, God bless them. That's very I think that the word is passable. I don't know if it's I think you're allowed to say that. You know, if you're not, I'm sorry, but that's what it seems like, you know, but God bless him.
An aspiring mental health worker who, in the early 2000s, married Juliana, a girl
yep, Mayor Giuliani.
a few years older, with her being in her mid-20s and Joshua being just 19 years old. Most importantly, perhaps, she was 3 months pregnant with someone else's child. But he loved her so
damn, dude, what are you doing, man? Come on, bro.
much that he was more than willing to marry her and adopt the child as his own.
Wow. Interesting play, brother.
This isn't something many men are willing to do, but before—
I mean, listen, there's nothing wrong with doing that. It's a beautiful thing to adopt another person's child and take care of that kid as your own. It's a beautiful thing. At the same time, I feel like you're only 19. It's one thing if you have like a 25, maybe really 30-year-old man that's like, you know what, I'll marry this woman that's pregnant and I'm gonna take care of the kids. Someone with their head on their shoulders who's making like an informed decision. But I feel like when you're 19, you're probably not making any informed decision. In fact, you're probably only making outformed decisions.
Or you think this is some kind of admirable act of self-sacrifice in the name of love. Joshua, that is, after he became Poppy, not only came to regret this, but actually claimed that they were somehow groomed into the role of husband and parent.
What?
This sacrifice in the name of love. Joshua, that is, after he became Poppy, not only came to regret this, but actually claimed that they were somehow groomed into the role of husband and parent.
You got to show a lot for claiming grooming. Hey, we married someone just to give someone a parent and basically let ourselves get groomed. You know, sure, you can get groomed as an adult. I understand that, but like, it takes a lot. It's not just, oh, I want to, like, it's probably, there's a lot there. That's like a very intentional, methodical process of setting somebody up for like generally sexual exploitation. So there's got to be more to that.
Despite already being 19 years old when the decision to marry Juliana was made.
When I met my kid's mom, I buried every bit of trans that was in me and basically decided to do the whole like heteronormativity thing for a long time because I was A, scared of transitioning, and B, was thinking this was the right thing to do. I was an idiot, but it did give my kid a parent.
Whether Poppy here is a reliable narrator or not, I'll let you decide. But what's suggested is that they were already trans at this point, and internalized transphobia is what got them into that position.
Maybe. I mean, it's possible. It sounds like what they're saying is that because a lot of people know that they're trans from like a younger age. Maybe they didn't know I don't know how old this person is. Maybe they didn't know exactly what to call it or exactly what the feelings are. And maybe they were so desperate to not be trans that they jumped into like, this is the role I'm supposed to have as a guy that marries a girl and has kids with them. And this person already has kids. And like this, this person might also may not have been as super comfortable sexually because like, they weren't expressing themselves the way they wanted. That could be possible. I wouldn't doubt it.
That, or this is just how Poppy rationalized their underlying wish for the regular family life they once had.
Yeah, no, it makes sense what they're saying.
Unfortunately, this is something they didn't experience for long, since soon after the marriage took place and the child was born, Juliana tragically passed away in a horse riding accident, leaving Joshua to be a single parent to—
That's so horrible, dude. Vosh takes another fucking victim. Oh my god, dude, this is terrible. That's honestly, I'm so sorry. That was terrible. That is a horrific situation, though, dude.
Their 3-year-old daughter. There's truly no overstating the magnitude of losing your partner while you still have a very small child to take care of. And
oh, I thought that the child died. Okay, it's still really sad, but it's still not as bad as I thought it was, but okay.
Part of everything that happens from here on out is—
I thought that the kid died. Okay. That's a little better. It's still terrible, but
in motion by this event. According to Poppy, their daughter is autistic. It was worth saying he deduced this was the case without a proper diagnosis from a
that's, you know, maybe you want to get a legitimate diagnosis. It might help you a little bit. I'm just gonna be honest with you.
doctor.
Yeah, so I was not always been the smartest cookie, and one of the things is I didn't have any idea how autism worked because I don't have it. I knew how ADHD worked. You know,
I would get a therapist. I have ADHD too. It was pretty rough when I was young. I'd still get a therapist. You know what I'm saying? Or Tobias Funke, a nalrapist.
That down, but autism was not something I understood, and my kid was pretty autistic, and none of the doctors, the people I took them to, not a single person ever mentioned a damn thing, probably because they're AFAB.
Though information is
Okay, we bugged it again. I had to interpret that information for a second. So they're saying that they don't. Okay, we're gonna wipe again. This is what they're saying. They're saying that the reason that the kid didn't get diagnosed is because they're a girl, right? And girls have different showings of autism, and it can be more difficult to diagnose them. That's what they're saying. Like they just used a lot of loaded language, to kind of get there, right? So yeah.
Scant on the pre-2010 years, we can assume that it was roughly during this period that Joshua attended Wayne State University, studying to eventually become a mental health counselor. He'd left a career in restaurant management behind to focus on getting the degrees he would need to do this, but despite these healthy ambitions, there were signs not everything.
I mean, that is possible. It's also possible that the kid doesn't have autism and they're just using that as an excuse. Just to be clear. Yeah, we have to wipe. We have to wipe because the fucking the boss is bugged at 1% and won't fucking die.
Was okay. The first sign of the extremely sexually impulsive behavior that
get the fuck out of here, bro.
Would eventually be their undoing was when...
Sorry, I missed something.
The first sign of the extremely sexually impulsive behavior that would eventually be their undoing was when, immediately after his wife died, he got with a random goth chick from a Renaissance fair because...
A little based.
She was hot, and he needed someone in bed now that he wasn't married.
I don't know, man. When I get sad, sometimes I you know, when I jack off, so maybe it's kind of like that. You know?
I understand everyone deals with grief differently, not judging
not bad
here, but they effectively put their child in danger. Poppy's daughter...
Why did they put the child in danger?
Whom I'll be referring to as Spawn, since that's their online handle.
What? Their name is... They named the kid Spawn. I'm assuming that's not what the kid's actual name. But they made the kid's online handle Spawn? Does that not... Maybe they're referring to the character from Marvel or whatever, or is it Marvel? I don't know, the comic book character. But like to me, it's like almost like insulting. Like, you're my Spawn. I don't know. Maybe I'm just loading that.
Eventually made a Tumblr post saying, Poppy's first partner after my biological mom died was abusive, and I still have trauma from that. It's unsure what exactly was meant by this because abusive can mean a whole variety of things.
Yeah, you gotta give me more than that.
Regardless, it's very possible this is in reference to the aforementioned random goth girl, meaning Joshua's pleasure-seeking activity exposed his daughter to a freak, potentially some kind of predator.
Possibly. It's a lot of loading going on there. It could be true, but so it's possible this person reads as everything's abuse, everything's grooming, everything's this, everything's very loaded. They probably had a toxic relationship because there are two young people, and this person had a kid. Like, you know, at 20 years old, they had like a kid, which is tough. It's tough to take care of a kid.
Speaking of,
especially as a young person who's not ready for it, and especially when it's not like your biological kid.
Predators, Poppy has also claimed that not only were they a victim of CSA, but, and I quote, they reduplicated it and did it to someone else, this someone else being their younger cousin. It's important to say that this event allegedly took place when Poppy was a teenager and obviously not operating at their full rational capacity. However, it is inevitable.
I mean, all this could be true. It's also possible that, like, you know, we're very online buzzwordy right now, so you know, it's hard to parse through this.
Inevitably something to keep in mind going forward, since believe me, it will become relevant. Another thing to remember is that Poppy has also admitted to being abusive to Spawn, which is confirmed by the latter in the...
My mom claims to have been abusive when I was younger. She frequently would refer to her former self as a monster, and I always corrected her and told her she wasn't a monster. Her claims of being abusive when I was younger are true, but she blows them out of proportion. She stopped spanking me very early on, and while yes, she wasn't the best parent after that, no one really is. Oh, I mean, it doesn't really sound like... I'm not trying to be rude. Like a young person with a kid, it doesn't sound that bad. I mean, I used to get fucking hit a lot. My mom stopped too, you know? But I wouldn't call my mom abusive, you know? Things were a little different back then. But when you're a fucking kid raising a kid, I mean, like... Like I said, that sounds like very loaded. Like, oh, it was abusive. They're probably racked with guilt. Which, by the way, is, and this is something that people should like keep in mind. It's good to be aware of it's good to be aware of yourself and the bad things that you've done in like the past and the negative impact you may have had on people. But you need to stay like in proportion, because it gets to a point there where like you're so guilty about the things that you might have done in the past that like you are now a miserable person to be around, and like now you're emotionally burdening people with this perception of yourself that isn't even necessarily true. That could be a lot for people to handle. Like, you know, if something happens in your life and like, you know, you wish you were better, that's great. It's good to express that. Like, hey, let's say from a parent, like, hey, you know, I wish I was a better parent. I'm sorry for hitting you or something, yada, yada, yada. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But to constantly beat yourself down over it's going to bug again, over and over and over again, can be like a real problem, because now you're burdening, you know, your child or whomever with more emotional shit that can be difficult for them to deal with. So you really have to be careful about how fucking crazy you act and how much blame you take, and you have to be proportionate. You don't want to go off the fucking walls. It sounds like this person is going off the fucking walls with it, you know?
Same Tumblr post I just read from. While Spawn didn't specify what this consisted of, they suggested that it wasn't that bad, at least in this post. After this first partner, there were 3 more that Spawn could remember, presumably taking place anywhere between 2004 and the mid-2010s, none of which are considered relevant. It's only in the mid to late 2010s that Poppy, at some point, still going by Joshua, meets Zena, their primary partner.
The warrior princess, dude?
And the one who is most known for appearing in the streams, mostly staying quiet while doing activities like knitting or coloring. Go play.
Oh, they're a knitter.
Play Warhammer like a real autistic person. Dude.
True. Warhammer seems cool as fuck. The lore seems pretty badass. I just, you know.
After her passive demeanor, it's easy to trick yourself into thinking Zena is somehow milder in nature than Poppy, but you'd be very wrong. Zena, like Poppy, has a checkered past, and while she probably would like for people to only focus on the one time she played the martyr and got heroically kicked out of a Boy Scout camp for admitting to being a lesbian, it's not.
Why would you get kicked out of a Boy Scout camp for being a lesbian?
Not the non-binary furry coming out of the closet that's interesting here, but the skeletons that are still in it.
I'm an Eagle Scout, and I don't really care about girls being in the Boy Scouts. I'm pretty sure they're allowed to be now, and I think that the rule is that they can't be in a troop with boys or something. I don't really care. Like, it's fine. Boy Scouts is dying anyway. I had a lot of fun with it. But by the time I was out, everybody then there was a fucking nerd, unfortunately. You know what I mean? But I like the Boy Scouts. Taught me a lot.
Not many specifics are known in regard to the people she allegedly victimized or the nature of her actions, but another Tumblr post, presumably from someone in the same LGBT community as her, said, "Do not trust Zena. She is an abusive misogynist who has assaulted women in LGBT safe spaces."
Based alert? I'm just kidding.
"She is an aggressive trans misogynist who intimidates trans women, refuses to allow discussion of her trans misogyny, and preys on trans women."
What does that mean? Is she dating a trans person? How does that work?
Though I do have to emphasize that these are just allegations, so as always, take it with a grain of salt. To add another layer of Machiavellian behavior on top of these claims, many people, including Spawn, have said that the whole being a quiet little grandma thing on stream is fully in act, as behind the scenes, Zena is even more aggressive and domineering than Poppy. Now is—
What does that mean? Are they like sexually, you know, doing stuff? Or are they, which would be weird for the kid to know, or are they actually abusive? I wonder.
It's as good of a time as any to get into the alphabet soup of illnesses these people have.
Come on. Oh, fucking alphabet soup, dude. Come on.
Beginning with Zena. There are a couple physical conditions like migraines and IBS.
Damn. Really, pick your struggle, bro.
Remember, she's a furry and probably owns a fursuit. Imagine how bad it smells. These are often cited as,
okay,
as reasons
how do you clean a whole fursuit?
For her being unemployed, along with something called PMDD, which is short for premenstrual dysphoric disorder, meaning dysphoria associated with accentuated PMS symptoms. But it's not just not having—
Are these diagnosed or are they self-diagnosed?
Having a job that Zena uses these issues as an excuse for. Any and all bad behavior gets swept under the rug of her conditions. If she gets upset and takes her frustration out on people, no matter how aggressive and methodical she can get, it's all the fault of her PMDD. But there may be a little wrinkle to that explanation. Zena takes testosterone, and the thing about taking T is in some cases
it makes you a little bit of an upset guy or girl or whatever person. It makes you it makes you a little upset. All right, that's all we'll say. Yeah, I understand that. It can make you, it can drive you up a little bit. It can rile you up. I understand that.
It can literally give you roid rage.
That's why men are typically very aggressive. Men have a lot of testosterone. They don't act perfectly, brothers.
Especially if you're someone with naturally low levels, like she obviously would have. I'm not an endocrinologist, nor am I a specialist on PMDD, but while it is a real condition, it's not the root of her behavior issues, as many people would later point out. Seems odd that the testosterone doesn't even get considered in the discussion, but my point stands
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense for it to be considered.
regardless. In Spawn's
That doesn't mean that if, like, they're trans, they shouldn't get, you know, whatever. It's just, but that would make sense to be a factor.
post, they describe Zena as not so bad when they first moved in, claiming that the only unusual thing about her was that she got sick very often due to their other housemates not being respectful about the substances they brought into the house.
Like, what, cats? What, is she allergic to cat hair or something?
I'll have to do some text interpretation here because this could mean a lot of things. First off, it's entirely possible that housemates here may be referring to other partners of Poppy's due to their
Ew, what are you doing? Freaking polyamory cringe.
polyamorous lifestyle, but I'm not even sure that this was being practiced.
It's so interesting, man, because I feel like most of the time when you see a polyamorous couple, bro, you could just tell. You know what I mean? You know what it's never like a really hot dude and girl. It's always a perfectly hot dude and girl, or people, like in this video, of course.
This early on in the timeline. As far as substances go, this may mean drug abuse was going on in the same household that a child lived in, which is worrisome to say the least. However, knowing Zena has intestinal issues and can't eat gluten, it may just be tough.
Oh my god, dude, that's crazy. You can't even eat gluten? I think if you're gluten-free, personally, I would try something. It's called non-bread, because it's not bread. That's incredible. I eat that all the time. I'm gonna bring it over to my gluten-free cousin's wife, fiance, really. See if she likes it, because it tastes just like bread. It's fucking incredible. I think it's Indian or something. It's interesting.
Talking about foods that triggered her IBS. But as the 2010s approached their latter half, a lot of things changed. First off, after aiming to become
Dude, come on, stop putting that picture of them up there. All right, you're dead picturing them.
A provider of gender-affirming healthcare, Poppy decided to get high off their own supply and transition as well, which is when the Poppy name popped up. At this point, Zena was still a neutral to Poppy.
I've already decided that if I have a trans kid, I'm going to name them. I'm going to rename them. You know what I mean? I picked out the first name. I'm going to pick out the next name. Oh, you can't do that. That's tough luck, bitch. You know what I mean? That's all you can do. All we're doing.
Positive presence in the household, sometimes even aiding Spawn with school and disability services. However, things changed drastically when 2020 rolled around, and all of them were confined inside their home.
Oh yeah, man, shit got crazy. Yeah, you know, it's unfortunate, but like levels of abuse went up when due to COVID. It's pretty fucked up shit.
The aforementioned housemates were no longer present at this point, which is important since this meant it was just Poppy, Zena, and Spawn, who despite not being a minor anymore, was still obviously the person with the least authority in the household, being seen as and treated like a child. Absent other people who could potentially serve as checks and...
Well, they probably were still kind of like a, you know, I understand, like my kids... you know, even when you're older now, you know, kids are growing up so much, like, they're growing up slower. So even if you're like a fucking 20-year-old, you're still kind of a kid, you know what I mean?
Balances for dysfunctional and abusive behavior, Zena's true nature reared its ugly head. Spawn's Tumblr post reads, Zena gradually became meaner and more controlling of me, despite numerous claims of them not wanting to be my parent. This is where those structured chore times and meal times start to...
I feel bad for this kid. I feel bad for the kid that, like, you know, they seem to always have a lot of misfortune associated with their parents, you know, and it's like, damn.
Come into play. Now that Poppy was working from home, Zena had to be in the living room a lot. Poppy always defended me when Zena had arguments, one-sided yelling matches with me, but as time went on, she started siding with Zena more and more. I didn't really notice at first because I still loved and defended my mom. It was my friends who pointed out that my mom was treating me poorly in May of 2022. The trouble started way before that.
I wonder what was happening.
Though. I just didn't realize it was abuse and mistreatment. We'll get to the details of these chore and meal restrictions later when they're elaborated on by Spawn in a document made after they left the household. While it's
interesting. Well, I mean, like, fundamentally, wouldn't necessarily see as an issue with like chore or food restrictions to some extent, depending on the circumstances. Like if they're running out of money or something or whatever. So, okay.
Still possible. Let's stay chronological. While 2020 was named as the year things began to change, it went by mostly silent. A kind of calm before the storm. It was only in February 2021 that Poppy began having an online presence to speak of. And that's when things...
Of course, during COVID. That's when everybody started, bro.
Really kicked into hyperdrive.
Yeah, the kid does seem very like more mature than the others so far.
The second video Poppy ever posted to their YouTube channel was about how all mental health counselors have to be left-wing for them to practice ethically.
Okay, cool, I guess.
In and of itself, this is the kind of OG Tumblr...
I mean, it's just like it's not even worth talking about. Like, I guess probably like conservatives don't tend to value therapy as much as like more progressive people. Doesn't mean that there are no conservatives that can value like therapy or mental health. But like, yeah, sure. Generally speaking, I would see them like being a little more, progressive. Would probably make a generally more effective therapist.
Arena core content that gets you ridiculed online, but compared to their later actions, this is a fart in the wind. The third video detailed their personal history with BPD, a sign that Poppy was nearing final form. Like Cell from Dragon
Final form of what? Like their transition? What the fuck?
Ball Z, but with mental illnesses instead of Ki. Their interest
Incredible. I call it Kai because I'm white. I'm a normal person.
in treating mental illnesses became, or maybe always was, secondary to developing them like a human petri dish. I will admit that I have no idea which of these are amateur self-diagnoses and which are things real psychiatrists and psychologists have diagnosed Poppy with, but I'll go over all.
Yep, that's obviously important though. Like, is there any way of us actually knowing? It's unfortunate because there's some people that it's like you really can't necessarily take them as like the most accurate narrators even in their own life, because they'll kind of sensationalize and be a little goofy sometimes, like, oh, I have all these different things, blah, 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 blah. Maybe they do, I guess. I don't know, but it's hard to say.
All of them nonetheless. First off, they claim to have borderline personality disorder, and though the nature of this condition isn't super well understood,
I have BPD, big penis disorder. Just kidding, guys. I have the reverse of that.
put it bluntly, Poppy is to BPD the same way Zena is to PMDD, a mental condition that serves as an umbrella for any kind of misbehavior. Poppy also claims to have OSDD, and I'll save you from hearing the technical rigor.
I wonder what like the actual comorbidities are with these different illnesses, or if they're just self-diagnosing, because I feel like they're just self-diagnosing. There's just no fucking, like, I struggle to believe that this is all true, but I guess I could be wrong.
Role and simplify it as a milder form of having multiple personalities, referred to as being plural.
Referred to as TikTok illness. Just kidding.
The thing is, being plural isn't recognized as a real thing, at least not yet. As a matter
I call people they, them all the time.
For fact, it's closely associated with kids who watch too much TikTok and start thinking they're anime characters in real life.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, ever since I was turned on to the idea that therapists, when they're like, training to be therapists in school, they're told to be very careful about the way that they interact with their clients, because they have to be careful about taking on secondhand trauma, right? It's like a real thing. You listen to your client and say some fucking, outlandish shit, or not outlandish, like something that's like really traumatic or hurtful, and you can take some of that on yourself unintentionally. You have to be very careful about that. I feel like TikTok did a really good job of giving everybody almost like secondhand trauma in some capacity. I think that there are some people that are just faking it for attention, but then I think that there are other people that are looking at this, especially young people, as like some form of an educational resource. And they're like, oh my God, like, I think I have this. And they legitimately think it, even though they probably don't, right? I think that that's like a real thing. I think that's something that people need to be very careful of. Thank you so much for the 13-month small god from Apocalypse. I love your content. Been watching since the Big Bang. Wow, that's a fucking long time ago, bro. Thank you so much.
And start
my biggest fan.
Giving themselves mental
my biggest banging fan. You guys like the dad jokes?
Illnesses so that they have an identity to cling to. Before you consider the possibility that there is some credence to the claims of being plural, Poppy's headmates, because that's what they're referred to,
headmates,
are Penny, a tiger-shark hybrid.
All right. If it was like another normal person, that's fine. But why do it have to be a furry? The hell?
Described as a young girl, and Pepper, a tiger-spider hybrid that is canonically 12 to 14 years old. Does
what the fuck are you talking about?
this sound creepy and insane to you?
Yeah, a little bit.
It probably should. Poppy's main identity also has an animal self, a hyena, specifically because female hyenas have what is called a pseudo-penis.
I think you should get somebody to talk to, sis. Get a good friend. Because this is just not it, This is fucking insane.
I won't go too deep into explaining how that works because this video is already enough as is.
Personally, I'm not even interested. You think I'd be like, wow, Papa, that seems like something that you would really be interested in another shitting. No. I'm interested in getting another acid weapon.
But from the names with alliteration, the personas, and the bizarre age-related connotations, all of this is pretty disturbing, especially since Poppy has publicly admitted to having victimized a minor once. But
what? What the fuck?
We'll get to the practical implications of these.
Well, I need to know more about that. You kind of just dropped that on me, doggy. Thank you so much for the 5-month small gift from Hi, I'm Ricky. Hello, Mr. Tummy. Thank you. Hello. Thank you, Jonathan F, for the $2. First time catching stream. God bless. Hey, God bless you, brother. I appreciate you stopping by.
These altars later. The content being released was par for the
As someone who likes hyenas, this is not what makes them cool. Are you sure? Hyena. I'm not going to show you how to spell it because I don't know how to spell it. Pseudo. Penis. Let's see. Female hyenas, spotted hyenas, have pseudopenises, which are external genitalia that look like male genitals. Their pseudopenises are actually elongated clitorises that can be up to 7 inches long. Holy, what the fuck? The female hyena's pseudopenis may be acting as an anti-rape device, allowing her to exercise choice over whom she mates with. This is pretty handy because in addition to the dangers lurking in her precarious birth canal, spotted hyena suffers from a few other reproductive challenges. What the dude, I didn't want this. I didn't want this educational lesson about fucking hyenas and their pseudo wieners. This is bananas, bro.
course. One claimed that not dating trans people if you were straight meant you were a Nazi, and
Ooh, that's a little much, you know. I mean, I've heard the typical you transphobic, which I don't know. That's a whole conversation. I wouldn't say you're transphobic. But I could kind of get, like, I love trans people, but I can understand, like, you know, dating a trans woman and being like, and parties like, oh man, like, it feels a little off to me on a personal level. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I would think about it too much. God bless. I don't know if that makes me some kind of transphobic or, you know, maybe even homophobic. Because if I'm like looking at a trans person and I'm having an uncomfortable aspect to it, like part of me, I guess, would be thinking that they're still a guy in some capacity, not like actively, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I just be like, oh, this is like uncomfortable. I don't know though, because I'm not dating a trans person. You know what I mean? I'm married, so I don't know how I would feel. I'm just kind of talking.
another begged everyone to wear masks, nothing too unusual for the political ideology Poppy espoused. Let's also not forget that
Well, back then I think people should wear masks, but you know, now it's weird if you do, I
the
think.
thumbnails of these videos looked like decomposing remains of an armored skeptic clone from 2014. Perhaps one of the most important and hypocritical pieces of content is one video titled "Authoritarian Parenting Can Lead to Abuse." Unsurprisingly,
I guess, sure.
it seems that is exactly what was going on behind the scenes.
Oh shit. First-hand knowledge, baby.
As previously mentioned, Spawn eventually made a document cataloging the Discord messages they'd sent about the abuse going on at their house.
Damn. But talking like they're saying that they have things like that they send like their friends about what was going on.
The document noticeably doesn't cover the years 2020 and 2021, probably because Spawn was still under the illusion that Poppy and Zena's behavior was somehow redeemable, believing that it'd eventually stop and normal life would resume.
I wonder how bad it was.
However, after 2 years, not only did nothing improve, but it actually got worse. I can only assume that 2022 is when Spawn worked up the courage to start telling others about what they were going through. Many things documented here aren't that egregious, but instead,
My mom has opinions on triggers. Me, person, doesn't want to watch a show because it's a trigger because of reason for trigger. My mom, did you tell them that's a bullshit answer? No, I didn't, because it's not a bullshit answer. What the fuck is this? Yeah, exactly. Or like when I said one of my friends has a photo of dogs and my mom went, did you tell them they're a bad person? Just because you love your dog doesn't mean somebody's phobia. What the hell are we talking about?
Instead, they serve as proof that Poppy and Zena are only really hypersensitive when it serves them.
Yeah, I mean, this one is like people, it sounds like they're not being sensitive to people's potential triggers, which you'd think of somebody like that would be sensitive to people's triggers. So,
For example, there's an instance here of Poppy saying that triggers are bullshit, something the majority of their audience would probably be appalled by.
well, I disagree with that too. I mean, like, here's the thing. I'm okay with trigger warnings. I'm okay. I understand that people get triggered by certain things. Like, I'm fine with that. I don't think that you get to dictate what the rest of us do as a society because of your trigger. But I'm sensitive to it. Like, I could be appreciative and sensitive to like your potential trigger. And like, if you express something to me, I'll try to make it you more comfortable around me, of course. But yeah, like, triggers are real. You know, I understand that.
But there are some serious claims here as well. In May of 2022, Spawn describes how Zena forbade her from showering because she might need to use the bathroom.
I hate how much Zena hoards bathroom time. I'm gonna hit the wrong button there. Oh my god, I'm hitting the wrong button over and over again. I'm like an idiot. I'm just going to maximize it so I can read it. I hate how much Zena hoards bathroom time. They're not even using it, but they won't let me shower because they might have to piss. Like, I've told you so many times, you're allowed to just go while I'm showering. I don't care. But I was walking around in 80-degree heat, and it's already been a few days since I last bathed. Ew. So, like, I wanted to shower as soon as I got home, but no. Screams, finally. I got permission to shower, and Zena goes, actually, you should wait till we get home. So the dog won't be alone for the 15, 20 minutes he'll be in the shower for. Bruh, she'll be fine. The dog thing is fine, but it's incredibly bizarre that they won't let them shower. The only thing that makes this redeemable potentially is if they were so poor and they were ashamed of saying it that they didn't want to like use too much water or something. That's the only like potential thing. Or maybe Spawn turns into a mermaid. Clary, no, you know, when they get wet, and so. You know, so maybe they want to. They don't want that to happen. I have no idea.
Without specifying when. The context of this is that Spawn hadn't bathed in days and was walking around in 80-degree heat.
I guess that Erica Bisnick guy would really like her a lot then, huh?
They got home. Spawn, over text messages, asked Zena for permission to use the shower and got it, only for the permission to immediately be revoked. With Zena saying, "Actually, you should wait until we get home so the dog won't be alone for the 15 to 20 minutes you'll be in the shower for." If this seems like someone making up arbitrary rules just for the pleasure of micromanaging someone else,
it's possible. At some point in this evening, can you hit up dishes? Zena is doing shopping and I'm working on notes. I would prefer not to. I've been feeling burnt out and tired for a while now. I asked you not to move my stuff on the couch. Please don't move my stuff. You told me to wait 5
because
times.
That's what it is.
I waited closer to 10 minutes instead of moving it. All this seems like pedantic bullshit.
Just 10 days later, Zena delivers a prolonged browbeating session over text messages, repeatedly telling
Then don't move it.
Spawn not to move any of her things whatsoever, regardless of circumstance.
I'm trying to leave to go to the grocery store.
The thing is, they're talking about objects that were sprawled over the couch.
I'm trying to leave. I've been trying to leave for the last hour. You could have asked for clarification.
And Spawn only moved them to clean the room. In June, we get an exchange in which Poppy is complaining about how long it took Spawn to do the dishes, neglecting the fact that there were 3 days worth of dishes in the kitchen. I'm starting
who cares how long it takes you to do the dishes? You know?
To believe in the horseshoe theory because of this.
What's that when you go so far like one way, you go the other direction? Yeah.
This is Mussolini tier obsession with punctuality. The trains must run on time.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I kind of believe in the horseshoe theory to some extent. You know what I mean? Like, here's my thing, right? What does a very traditional conservative want to do? They want to like they want to die in this game like an asshole. Very traditional conservatives want to have like very heavy control over like women's bodies, and they want to remove agency from women, right? That's the whole concept. We get to this point where we're having conversations about like, you know, boundaries and stuff. And it makes sense to fundamentally have these conversations, but it gets to a point where it's like, we get to some weird point where like women are too stupid to consent now. 19-year-old women are just little baby girls. And by the way, I think a 35-year-old dating a 19-year-old is like immature and childish, but they're still an adult, the 19-year-old. But like 19-year-olds are too stupid. They can't interact with older men because they're instantaneously always going to get fucking groomed and victimized. If the older guy happens to be popular or famous, then it is also grooming because 19-year-olds, despite being actual legal adults that enjoy popular people, they're too stupid to be able to consent. That's like part of the thing. It's like, okay, so where do we go from there? Oh, I guess like only mom and dad can really sign off on whether you can fuck or get married. You know what I mean? It's like there is like going so far like left, you go right. And I mean, I feel like that's an example of that.
No more chuddies jumping on the bed. Spawn proceeds to complain about this on Discord, saying, "You can't offload 3 days of dishes on me and then get mad when it takes a long time. Then they got mad at me for waking up late and got mad at me for starting my bed routine 30 minutes late. I am 22, but every aspect of my life is timed.
Yeah, I mean, half an hour doesn't seem like a big deal. It's fucking crazy.
I still have a bedtime, and they keep moving said bedtime earlier and earlier because of not doing other things on time."
Why do you have a bedtime at 22? Like, I understand some restrictions, but they're 20. I mean, I feel like, what the fuck?
I literally have ADHD, autism, and a heart condition. I can't always do things on time, especially in the heat because of my blood disorder.
Shit, I've been telling you something. When I'm fucking hot, I don't do anything. I'm going to be real with you. It sucks because I was going to get central air in my house. And I had my cousin, you know, he does HVAC, and God bless him, but they told me that the quote was going to be like $12,000 just for their work alone, not including the, electrician setting up. So I think we're going to pass on that. Maybe just get a couple of air conditioners and, you know, instead of central air. It's a little too much for me. You know, I want to budget for other things. I want to have kids soon and stuff. So I'm thinking that there's other things that are a little more important right now, at least. So not really incredible stuff, but it is what it is, you know what I mean?
Which means heat.
But I mean, the reason I was talking about that is because it's difficult. Like when it's fucking 90 degrees out and I'm fucking 100 degrees in the goddamn hot box of a house, you think I'm trying to do some goddamn dishes? No, of course not.
Affects me so much worse. I collapsed a few weeks ago, and we don't have an AC and haven't since March. The blood disorder being referred to here is POTS, a condition that can be really debilitating depending on severity. Basically, it means being
I like to smoke pots.
upright for too long and excess heat can cause intense fatigue, nausea, and
I don't like it at all, actually.
other similar symptoms. Again, for someone with this condition, an AC isn't just a convenience, but can actually keep them functional while indoors. It would
True that.
be inconsiderate for a regular person to leave their kid with pots for 3 months without AC, but considering how much Poppy and Zena virtue signal about being supportive and wholesome and
Yeah, you'd think that they would try to make that a priority of like comfort. You know, I've known people that they wouldn't want to get. They want to get like new iPads with like service plans on them or whatever, like phone plans on them, basically. But they wouldn't get heat. And it's like, you know, at what point do you like what? Like, I don't understand. I've always been more about the comfort over the fucking like extra little oddities and stuff. It's just so stupid. Like, why the fuck do you need that? You know, you're better off getting heat or AC when it's hot or cold.
their content. It's a highlight of their hypocrisy. In another incident, Spawn went to the kitchen later than usual, only for Zena to tell them they couldn't get lunch anymore. Attached
Are they like extraordinarily poor or something?
is an exchange between Poppy and Spawn, which went as follows. I get that I was late, but I need food. I should be allowed to get food when I need it. Poppy, we have a schedule in our house. You need to follow that. Zena doesn't get personal time with constant interruptions. While I agree with you that making lunch shouldn't be an issue, in the past, the problem is that often making lunch has been noisy or a time to overly interact with Zena.
Time to overly interact with Zena? What the fuck does that even mean? How do you over interact with what the fuck?
You are also positive with COVID. That's an issue as well. Please.
I mean, the COVID is probably the only. Well, no. What if they? What the? No, that's not even reasonable. If somebody has COVID, like you might want to clear out of the kitchen or something. But what the fuck are you talking? What the fuck is it? What is happening here?
Please remember that the schedule as a whole is more important because it will prevent close contact.
So you're telling me that the person that has COVID, like you're gonna not let them eat? Wouldn't that hurt their ability to recover from said COVID? I don't understand.
Spawn explained that being sick made them hungrier than usual to
Oh yeah, I feel the same way, brother. You know, I'm always sick.
no avail. I don't know about you, but I find it strange that Poppy is willing to let their biological child go hungry.
Oh, Poppy's their biological kid. Okay, for some reason I thought Poppy wasn't. I thought Poppy wasn't their biological kid. I could have sworn that I don't think it's like a big deal. I feel like we knew that this kid was like in the belly of the other woman who died, right? Am I wrong about that? Am I the idiot here?
While they're sick, mind you, just to give
But
Zena
either way, it's your kid. You know what I mean?
uninterrupted personal time. The interruption here being noises in the kitchen, which I guess are enough to disturb her precious peace.
It's fucking so bizarre, dude. This is definitely coming off as like legitimately fucking abusive.
Another example of this is when Spawn recounts having to go get water from the fridge in order to take their medication, only for this to
you gotta dry swallow that. I can't do it. I have so many goddamn pills to take. Well, I have like 4. One of them's a multivitamin. So
disturb Zena, who started complaining about how that should have been done ahead of time.
what?
The only reason Spawn was doing that was that their tap water was shut off due to maintenance, something unpredictable.
Dude, none of it matters. Justifying like, oh, the reason Spawn did this normal thing is because who cares why? They wanted to get some fucking water. I could not imagine living in a household where I was fucking told when I couldn't eat or not, or when I couldn't have a drink of water. Like, that's insane to me. That's just fucking wild. What the fuck?
Predictable and not within their control. I have to make a caveat here to say, is Zena sleeping in the kitchen? What kind of arrangement is this that you can't do absolutely anything in the kitchen? Otherwise, the Dark Souls boss that is your furry stepmom will awaken and hurt you.
Yeah, for fucking sure, man.
Just a day later, Spawn says, convinced Zena is genuinely trying to starve me. I was about to make spaghetti, and Zena told me to make something
It
quick.
sounds like Zena hates this person. It sounds like Zena hates them for whatever reason. They have like some kind of weird resent. That's really bizarre.
I go to make a PB&J, but realize I don't have any jelly, so I ask my parents if I can use their Smucker's brand one, and they say yes. Already put...
Why do you have to ask? I'm so confused. Why do you need to ask your parents if you can use their fucking peanut butter and jelly? Like, what?
peanut butter on one half of the sandwich at this point, realize the Smucker's jelly is moldy and smells really bad, so I ask if I can use the other jelly in the fridge that's Zena's, for, need I remind you, a single sandwich. Zena says no and says, if I let you use it, then I won't have any left.
Why do they have so many different jellies? I don't understand that. It sounds like there's like 3 different jellies.
Poppy has to convince them to let me use their jelly for one singular sandwich. Arbitrarily controlling food intake is a very common kind of abuse of parental authority. And
yeah, I mean, listen, man, you guys know that I'm a skeptic when it comes to all these allegations of abuse, but this I mean, well, I really don't know what other way to explain this. This is horrific. This is so bizarre. Like, none of this makes any sense. It's like it can't even be rationalized. I don't think this is a money issue. I think it's just a control thing.
And given Zena is on test, as we've already established, it may be the cause.
Me too, bro, but I wouldn't do this shit.
Of this antagonistic and.
Well, I guess I could kind of get it because you didn't grow up learning how to deal with your emotions. Because like testosterone makes you angry. That's an emotion. You got to learn to deal with that as a man or as a person. You know, but since they didn't, I mean, but that's being too charitable because Jesus fucking Christ, like, this is crazy.
And territorial relationship she developed.
The problem is, it doesn't even seem like they think that they're in the wrong. Like, there's a difference between being, like, kind of like losing your shit, getting a little angry sometimes, and then afterwards being like, yeah, that was wrong. As long as you don't hit anybody, right? Versus like being really mean and aggressive and like just thinking that it's acceptable behavior, which is what. Maybe we're not getting the right information, but is what seems like is happening here. No?
Developed with the Spawn. However, while Zena was the main person behind terrorizing Spawn, Poppy also played a role.
Well, Poppy's enabling Zena to do this. It's supposed to be your kid. You know, you're supposed to take care of your kid first, asshole.
Despite regularly complaining that it was Spawn's own fault that their blood disorder acted up, claiming that they weren't eating properly.
There's probably a level of truth to that, but I mean, there could probably be a more productive conversation about it.
Poppy did things like labeling and withholding salami, one of the very few sources of protein in the house. I guess.
Well, that's not even a good source of protein. That's a horrific source of protein. That's very fatty.
The furry thing was realer than I thought. These people are behaving like actual animals and claiming food like they're hunter-gatherers.
Oh, maybe that's what it is. I don't know.
Acting like putting plastic cups in the dishwasher was unforgivable.
Why are you placing recycling in the dishwasher? I mean, right off the bat, I typically like to clean my recycling really quick, like before I put it in there if it's super dirty. You're going to melt the plastic cups. I'm glad you didn't ruin the dishwasher. This could have easily destroyed the entire... I mean, so first of all, it's too much. Like, you could have just texted like, hey, don't put that in there. It could ruin the dishwasher, and you can move on. Like, it's a reasonable thing to, like, say something to somebody, but it seems like they have a pattern of constantly saying things to people. It's almost like they're fucking like hoping. This is one of those things. It's like they're looking. They want this person to mess up so they get to be fucking rude to them. That's what it seems like to me. Because there are people who are like that. You know, like those are your super like authoritative like parents that are like they beat you all the time. It's like they want you to do something wrong because they're looking for an excuse. Versus like, you know, like I had like a tough mom, you know, but she never liked punishing me. Right? I feel like that's the fucking difference here. It's like this person is looking for an excuse to you just say something and be controlling in some capacity. And I could be wrong, but this is what it reads as to me.
To yelling at Spawn for proactively putting up a gate for their dog, a chore that Poppy and Zena had neglected to do for months. It seems there was nothing Spawn could do to please them. To make matters worse, Poppy told Spawn things like, I don't think you can ever repair what you've done to your relationship with Zena.
What did they do? What did they do so bad? I want to read this. I'm so tired. I could do literally anything in the world and Zena would yell at me for it. They want a baby gate in front of my door to keep the dog out of my room. We've had the baby gate for a week, but it hasn't been taken out of the box yet. I decided to put it up so my parents didn't have to deal with it, you know, trying to do a nice thing. Zena yells at me for 30 minutes for it and threatens to kick me out of the house because I can't follow instructions. Then talks about how I haven't been doing my chores and they've had to pick up the slack, ignoring the fact that 1, the reason I wasn't doing my chores is because I have COVID. 2, I've had to pick up their slack for years. 3, I have been doing chores just later than normal. Last time I had an argument with Zena, said like, you want to be independent, yet you can't remember to take out the trash after you were sick in it. Like, bro, it's one thing that had to be reminded, OG. And my mom was all like, I don't think you could ever repair what you've done with your relationship with Zena, and Zena doesn't ever apologize for treating me like shit. I'm so tired. Listen, here's the thing. I wonder what this Spawn person is doing to prompt this situation happening. And just to be clear, that doesn't mean that they deserve this, right? That's another issue too, is like looking for an excuse to be like what the fuck, dude? This boss sucks. Looking for an excuse and having a massively disproportionate reaction to something that's going on. That's like another tactic. It's like, oh, this boss is fucking annoying as shit. That's another potential tactic as well, right? It's like, oh, this person accidentally broke a cup, and then you start screaming at them. And so that's what I mean of like, okay, I wonder what's prompting it. It doesn't mean it's a justifiable prompt, but like a lot of people with anger problems, they'll be justified a little bit in being angry, but not to nearly to the degree that they are angry, if that makes sense.
Zena had neglected to do for months. It seemed there was nothing Spawn could do to please them. To make matters worse, Poppy told Spawn things like, I don't think you can ever repair what you've done to your relationship with Zena, as if she was the one at fault for it deteriorating. Spawn was yelled at for going to the kitchen outside of their allotted time, yelled at for—
It's just fucking crazy. Going into the kitchen outside of your allotted kitchen time is fucking... It's so based.
moving furniture to vacuum their bedroom, and punished with more chores. When Spawn complained, Poppy and Zena said that the domestic issues should be discussed during family meetings.
What the fuck is a what does that mean? A family meeting? Like, I understand family meetings. Why do you need to have a family meeting? I don't really understand. What?
But when the time came for these meetings, they either ignored everything or claimed Spawn was in the wrong. Noticing that things were being pushed to their breaking point, Poppy and Zena decided to task Spawn with making a list of things they were upset about, and the list was promptly made. It pointed out that Poppy and Zena didn't respect the strict bathroom and kitchen times, and for things to be fair, everyone should have free access to all common areas of the house. Additionally, Spawn complains that P and Z often didn't do their chores at all, letting them accumulate until Spawn had to do them all. While Poppy and Zena could opt out of doing—
I wouldn't doubt that. I wouldn't doubt that Zena or whatever is like desperately just trying to. There's clearly, I don't know what's the dynamic is going on here, but there's clearly some level of some kind of, I don't know, some kind of entitlement from Zena. You know, it's something fucking crazy is going on. I don't know the specifics. I'm curious about it, but I don't think it could ever justify the behavior, you know? Like, maybe they're a 22-year-old and they're kind of annoying and immature or something. That doesn't justify, like, this fucking crazy, outlandish response.
something if they had a migraine. Spawn had to thug it out no matter how bad their pots got, and not only get things done, but get them done on time.
Like, I understand the idea of people using their physical or mental health as an excuse not to do stuff. Like, I dated somebody who used their shit like that, so sometimes it was justifiable, sometimes they're just trying to get away with it. But like, this response is fucking crazy, bro. This is insane.
To add to the previous mention of arbitrarily controlling food intake, not only was Spawn frequently forbidden from entering the kitchen, they also couldn't even bring snacks with them into their room, not even if they were drinks, which people with POTS regularly need to maintain their salt intake and treat their condition.
Why? I mean, I understand no food in the bed, I guess, but no drinks in the bed. Get like a sippy cup or whatever. The cups that girls like. You know what I'm talking about?
So on the list alone, it's easy to interpret that while Poppy just seems negligent and occasionally unfair, Zena is systematically abusive. But
no, Poppy is just as bad, if not worse. Just to be clear, you're enabling the behavior. You're letting this person abuse your kid. You're a scum fuck piece of shit, enabler, bitch. You know, I think that we should be more aggressive to people like that. Because I think it's just disgusting. It's disgusting behavior. Like,
by doing things like limiting Spawn's access to the
like, if you're somebody's parent, you should be doing everything that you should. Your kid should matter more to you than some fucking random person. It drives me up a fucking wall when people will prioritize. They'll prioritize their their partner that they're dating over your actual kid. That's crazy to me.
Dog for no reason, and deliberately excluding Spawn from meals. It looks as if any source of positive reinforcement was getting cut off. One of the most damning aspects of the control they had was that no money was to be spent without approval from Poppy and Zena, even if the money belonged to Spawn, something many people have called financial abuse, since Poppy did, at one point, threaten to freeze Spawn's account. The list was
maybe.
It's concluded with a warning that if these complaints weren't attended to, Spawn intended to move out. This wasn't an empty threat, since Spawn had been planning to do so already, speaking to an unnamed friend to
well, hopefully they can get out. Yeah, I mean, it can be difficult to
secure temporary housing in case the abuse worsened. However, Poppy caught wind of this and got mad at Spawn for it. This was Poppy's assessment of the—
Why? Clearly you're treating the kid like they don't want them there. Why would you want them to move out unless you want an excuse to be abusive to them and be like, oh, like, you know, move out if you want, and then they would try to move out and you're like, no, don't, because they want the control potentially.
List. Half of the list items were just dishonest, and half of them were partial framings that ignored any context. To be clear, I'm not a perfect parent. I was young, abusive, and shitty when they were young, and dealing with the grief of their mom dying. But I spent 15 years in therapy and Zen Buddhism trying to make up for that.
Oh my god, fuck is Zen Buddhism?
Only to watch them try to become a wedge between myself and my fiance. Text messages show Zena becoming upset at merely being asked what her credit score was, despite the context obviously being to help Spawn move out.
That's interesting that they would ask them for help moving out with like their credit score.
Poppy and Zena's complete lack of cooperation put the plans to move out on an indefinite hold. Meanwhile, after spending
Well, I don't think that they wanted them to move out. So the reason that they probably got so riled up over it is because they didn't want them to move out in the first place. Because then they would potentially lose control over the person.
a week at a friend's place, Spawn comes back to find out that the house was so neglected in their absence that actual mold had grown on the counter.
Ew, what the fuck?
Not some moist and dark corner of the house, the kitchen counter. Every attempt to make domestic living less confusing and conflicting was shot down, usually by Zena, who refused to do simple things like use tone indicators over messages to improve communication, which
That could be helpful.
is I don't even understand why this is tone indicators. Why are tone indicators needed?
Well, I mean, generally speaking, I mean, people can come off differently on text message and than in real life, and so maybe the tone indicator is like that. Like, oh, can you use a tone indicator so I can see if you're mad or something? But it sounds like they might be potentially walking around on eggshells for this Zena person. Because like if I was, you know, to be like, okay, why would they need this? Most people don't necessarily need a tone indicator. Usually, you kind of like understand the way that you know somebody that you're with or around a lot would speak, even through text. What I would assume is that, and I could be so like, I just want to be very clear, like I might not be accurate on this. What I would assume potentially is that Zena's a bitch, and there are times where they're like really aggressive, and then they go, "Oh no, I wasn't trying to be aggressive," and downplaying that like understanding of their aggression. So they're like, "Oh, I guess I'll start using tone indicators in text message then, or something." That was the agreement, so they can understand where they were at. But again, I you know, it's just so there's a lot going on here.
Or let Spawn use the microwave after they hadn't eaten anything for 8 hours. On that last part,
Shit, I can't even make it through my whole sleep time, bro.
Spawn
I gotta have cookies next to the bed. I don't actually have that. That would be fucking pathetic. Sorry.
did eventually eat 2 hours later, making for a total of 10 hours without food because Zena might get a migraine. Zena
What is that? Zena, if you have that bad of migraines, maybe you should just fucking. Maybe you're not for this world. I don't know. Sorry, that's not a little rude. I'm just saying, like, I don't really understand. Like, I understand migraines. Like, get it treated or something. Holy fuck.
refused to drive Spawn to the dentist because she might get a migraine. Zena accused Spawn of
Zena sounds fucking useless.
lying about their POTS. Zena deliberately used Spawn's mealtime, preventing them from eating anything. Are you getting the picture here? It's important to note that at this point, not only was Spawn paying for rent, but also paying for the food they ate.
Oh, really? Wait, so they're basically a roommate in the house? What the fuck?
Meaning there was absolutely nothing justifying their lack of authority over
Yeah, no, if she's paying rent and food, then like I don't understand how you have this much control over this person. I was assuming they weren't paying for anything.
anything. The extremely strict rules were bad enough as is, but the fact that P and Z didn't even try to respect them made it all significantly worse. The best example of this is that while you can't even fart in the vicinity of Zena without giving her a migraine,
It sounds like Zena might be using her migraine condition as an excuse to just be super oppressive and controlling.
Poppy often barged into the bathroom while Spawn was using it, and when confronted about it, they responded with the following: "If the door's open, I can come in whenever I want. I don't care if it makes you uncomfortable." By November
A little weird, but okay.
2022, Spawn still had access to their bank account, but for the entirety of that month, they were forbidden from buying any food that had to be stored in the freezer or fridge, meaning
Why?
despite having money, they were limited to getting things like granola bars. Spawn was now living under the threat of having their internet access cut off, and with it, communication from friends, which is a telltale sign of abuse and even
What is going, like, again, are they poor? Like, I don't understand what all the restrictions are from. I wouldn't even, if they are poor, I still wouldn't buy all of the restrictions that all of them are like this bad. You know, it still seems like it's an excuse. But like, are they poor? Is that at least the argument there? Like, oh, we had no money, our power went out, our fridge broke, so we didn't want to put stuff in it. Like, I'm not understanding. It's like, Jesus Christ, what's with all these fucking restrictions? Or maybe I'm just trying to rationalize it how a normal human being would rationalize it. Because it's just such a fucking outlandish situation happening that I can't perceive it as real, you know?
cult-like behavior. This was done under the excuse that Spawn needed to get a job, but then again, not having access to the internet makes job hunting harder than it needs to be. The stress
She probably does need to get a job. What does Zena do for a job? She has fucking migraines all the time.
was so bad that their hair started falling out again. The incidents continued to worsen as the end of the year approached, with Zena yelling at Spawn for getting cereal at 11 a.m.
What?
and no one else was in the kitchen. Zena was in her bedroom before deciding to get up and chase after Spawn just to berate them. When Poppy caught wind of this, all they had to say was, "I'm sorry you felt yelled at," despite wanting the authority that came with being a parent.
Sorry that you felt yelled at. Incredible.
Zena hated the idea of actually being a parent and having to care for the person she was lording over.
I mean, that makes sense if that's the case. That's probably why they're being such a piece of shit.
Chores were weaponized as a way to prevent Spawn from being able to see their friends, but whenever this was met with unhappiness, Zena tried to play the victim and claimed Spawn was framing her as abusive. Despite outright saying she didn't want to be Spawn's parent, she threatened to get guardianship custody over them if they didn't get a job.
How would they do that if they're 22 years old? I don't understand how you would even get that. That doesn't make sense.
Even when Poppy occasionally relapsed and was minimally nice to Spawn, Zena made sure to intervene and prevent it. In one instance, Poppy was about to let Spawn use the bathroom, unscheduled, but Zena made sure that didn't happen and kept them waiting another 15 minutes. As 2023 began,
For fucking what?
Spawn was occasionally burdened with over 7 hours of chores, and if they didn't get it done, they lost access to the internet. Bad enough as it already was, there were signs that it was about to worsen. Poppy, in another Munchausen by proxy moment, decided that Spawn had dissociative identity disorder and was actively trying to get her diagnosed with it. This potentially meant that Spawn stood to lose.
Why? It just sounds like they're constantly trying to get them diagnosed with disorders when there's a potential behavioral issue going on there. Like, oh, if you have a potential behavioral issue, what should we do about it? Oh, like, what if I got you diagnosed with a disorder? You know what I mean? Like, not everything needs a diagnosis. Sometimes you just need maybe like a behavioral rework. Like, I mean, this Poppy person, or excuse me, Spawn probably isn't. Like, I'm sure that there are issues. I'm sure that this person is flawed in different capacities, right? That's normal, but you don't need a fucking diagnosis for everything.
Every last bit of their agency and be forced to be under the care of P and Z permanently. Not to mention
what the fuck?
Potentially taking psychiatric meds to ensure her compliance.
That sounds a little bit. Well, it sounds a little bit questionable. Why do you need that much control over a person there?
And another,
trying to Britney Spears him a little bit?
Another example of cult-like behavior, Poppy was withholding Spawn's mail, which almost caused them to lose health insurance. Internet access began being frequently withheld as a punishment for not doing chores up to Zena's satisfaction. The most egregious example of this being when Spawn was told that if they did all of the chores during the weekend, they'd get internet back on Monday. The thing is, when Monday came, the internet didn't, and when Spawn asked about it, they were accused of badgering Poppy and Zena punished them by, you guessed it, withholding the internet. Supposedly,
wow, it's almost like that's what they wanted to do from the start, huh? It's crazy.
This was because some chore wasn't done, but it wasn't specified which one. When Spawn asked Poppy, they realized neither knew, meaning Zena was keeping both of them in the dark, probably because there was no chore that went undone, and she just wanted to punish Spawn again. This could have been easily rectified with a brief conversation with Zena, but of course, she had a stomach bug and couldn't be bothered. The documented
get that those stomach migraines is what they call them.
Instances of abuse in 2023 become noticeably sparse because at this point, Spawn spent more time without access to the internet than with it. All of it culminated in late April, when, after spending 10 days offline, Spawn listed 2 job-related appointments they needed internet for, only for Zena to say that internet access could only be given if Spawn made a satisfactory offering in exchange.
What? What is it? Blood for the blood god? What the fuck's happening here? They're saying, hey, I might have to be able to get a job. I need internet access. And the first thing that you want to do is like, what the wow, these people seem like real pieces of shit. What the fuck?
We've officially moved from abusive parent to tyrants all the way to Old Testament pagan deity. Zena does sound like some ancient Babylonian demon, all things considered. However, when Spawn asked what was considered an acceptable offering, Zena told her that she had to figure it out on her own. Later
wow, incredible. What the fuck is happening?
Later on, as it turns out, this was a test of some kind, and Spawn failed, though I have no clue what that means.
What is that? Yeah, what do you mean it's a test? What?
If I were to guess, that was just the excuse Zena came up with to explain this obviously insane request. About half a month later, Spawn said they were going out for the day and proceeded to escape through the window, emptying out a trust fund of theirs in order to afford the cost of leaving the house. When talking about this on stream, Poppy inadvertently confesses to not being concerned about their kid whatsoever, and instead just being worried about the money Spawn had taken.
I want to look at their channel. Zena and Poppy Discourse. Oh, because it's discourse, but it's discourse. Copy. Disc. They have a whole channel together. I guess that's their job. Let's see. This is their channel. Anti-electoralism is genocidal accelerationism. Jesus Christ. There we go. Deconstructed the polyamory doc by Ms. Molina. Wow, these are very generous interpretations of you guys.
Teal'c from Stargate.
I've been dragged into harassment bullshit, and you guys know me. I can't just let it go. I can't take the easy way out. I have to do what I think is right. So regular viewers who don't care about this, fine. I completely understand. The video's not monetized. I'm doing it. But, you know,
What the fuck is happening here? These people are fucking weird.
This is the degree of lovelessness we're talking about. Imagine.
Is this the job they're pretending that they have? I'm not trying to be rude, but like this is not financially sustainable in any capacity. What do they do for money? I don't get it. Like you're barely getting enough views to live. How much more? Where do they actually work?
If your kid went AWOL and all you thought about was money. From this entire story, you might be
Oh, I thought he was going to show us them saying that.
wondering if this dynamic duo has made other victims. And the answer is a definite yes. As I mentioned much earlier, Poppy is polyamorous, though the only
Wholesome degenerates. Ooh.
partner who's really stuck around through thick and thin is Zena. The other partners are a revolving door of people with differing degrees of relevance. Until around the time Spawn left the house, which is early to mid 2023, there
Well, it looks like they blocked some stuff. It's always obnoxious, like abusive pieces of shit that always want to talk about politics and how progressive we should be. And all this other nonsense. Fucking cosplaying as somebody who cares about people. It's crazy.
weren't many negative things being publicly said about Poppy and Zena, even if some people already disliked them. However, Poppy's behavior grew more and more erratic. The first sign something was wrong was when replying to a tweet.
Well, maybe she has another mental health disorder. It's the fault of that and not herself. That's like one of the things too. These types of people are the types of people who might have some kind of mental health issue, but they use it as an excuse rather than as like an acknowledgement, right? Like I have ADHD, so when I engage in a bad behavior, it's nice to be like, oh, okay, maybe that bad behavior has something to do with my ADHD, but the behavior is still bad, and I need to do better with the behavior. It just makes me feel a little bit better that I'm not like the worst person in the world. That's pretty much it. So, you know, I'd engage like that. That's how you need to engage with this kind of stuff.
Tweet by someone called Aaron, Poppy made a sexual insinuation about them, which was met with only one word: gross. But that's not the important part of the story. Poppy got quite upset about this exchange, saying, I am a xenogender trans woman who literally
We have to actually read what's going on here.
something was wrong was when
So I'm going to post on this before, because the reason Aaron blocked me was because I made a pass at her on an obviously sexual post. She has now proceeded to call me creepy, blocked me, is now a rape jacketing me. My
When
account
replying
says succubane for a reason. What is succubane?
to a tweet by someone called Aaron, Poppy
Can you suck dick while fasting?
made a sexual insinuation
I would like to help you find out. It sounds like this Aaron person just made a random tweet. What?
about them, which was met with only one word: gross.
That's it? It sounds like you're fucking around.
But that's not the important part of the story. Poppy got quite upset about this exchange, saying, I am a xenogender trans woman who literally uses a neurogender based on being hypersexual and a survivor of CSA.
I would never be this person's friend. I would never associate myself with this person. We all have trauma. Trust me. We just all don't wear it like a fucking badge. All right, we keep it to ourselves like a normal person does, and then we talk to our loved ones privately about it if we feel like we need to express and vent. We don't create magical fucking genders around it. And by the way, it sounds like they're saying that they have a gender that's based on hypersexuality. That's disgusting. Like that just sounds like you're a degenerate piece of shit and you're justifying it. Oh, I can't control myself. I'm rape sexual. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's like disgusting. Like, what the fuck? That's not a real thing. That's an excuse for bad behavior. Like, I make inappropriate jokes all the time. And, like, you know, that's kind of how I'm a little insensitive. My wife will, like, you know, especially when I'm in public, she'll, like, gut check me a little bit. She won't punch me, but she'll, like, check me a little bit. Like, hey, I was like, oh, yeah, my bad. Like, I'm not trying to be a bad guy, you know. But I'm not sitting here like, I have fucking genders associated with being a little edgy. What the fuck are you talking about? This is insane. This is fucking pathetic.
She simply could have said it made her uncomfortable. I would have apologized and deleted the tweet.
Well, first of all, nobody has to be. This is actually making me want to use slurs. If you making somebody uncomfortable is not their responsibility to heart to heart you with. Hey, excuse me, you know, that made me really uncomfortable. Can you please not do that? First of all, I don't even think that she would react kindly to that. She would probably act like a bitch anyway. Second of all, that's ridiculous. That's on you. You shouldn't be saying like sexually explicit things in general. It's like harassment. And if they don't like it, say sorry. You don't have to need somebody to explicitly like hold your hand through your mistake. It's pathetic.
I also stand by my behavior. I flirt with everyone over 18, and if I cross a line, I will always apologize and make amends. I do not deserve this framing or BS.
Sounds like they are the ones that signal boosted this in the first place. What?
If you legitimately think I'm in the wrong, block me. It's ironic that this was said because the only reason this rant happened was due to Aaron doing just that, blocking Poppy. Woven through the tweets is the word succubian, a word Poppy uses to describe the xenogender, or maybe the neurogender.
This is fake. It's not a real thing, just to be clear. This is I'm bored at home because I'm unemployed and I need something to make me feel unique.
Whatever it is that's responsible for the unsolicited comments, as if giving it a name made it any less inappropriate. In the same way,
It's so weird that this person claims to be progressive and yet they sexually harass people on the internet, you know? And it's like, and then they fucking cry bully about it afterwards. Like that's what that is. And you know, like I don't really care about like silly, like that little joke of like, oh, I can help you find out. Whatever, inappropriate, but I don't care. But then they say gross and block you because they found it like distasteful, and you're gonna have a meltdown and be like, "Oh, I'm rape gender actually, so it's okay." Like I'm not calling you succubane gender. What you're saying is like you're sexual harassment gender. That's what you're saying right now. You're a fucking weirdo. Like get out of here with that shit.
MDD and BPD have been used to justify bad behavior so far. Poppy's unhealthy sexual dynamics and compulsive lewdness are excused under the guise of them being succubian. However, we'd soon come to find out this signaled a much deeper problem, one which few knew about. While the situation I'm about to go over
I mean, I feel like we could have guessed that there's a couple problems going on there.
happened around the same time, May 2023, information about it only came out in August of that year, when someone named Melina made
a Destiny reference?
Twitter thread accusing Poppy and Zena of being abusive hypocrites. We begin the series of screenshots compiled and shared by Melina, with Zena love bombing her into sticking around and being extra supportive to Poppy and Zena.
What the fuck? Zena Bunny. If it was a psychological trigger, she most would have worked through it or be able to identify it. I know it's hard with long distance relationships. You really do help Poppy. I know it's hard that you can't do more, but just know that even you just being there for her is still helping. I know, or at least I think I know. I just always wish I could do more, but that's just me. Well, I will remind you that you're important anytime because you are. Okay, this is just fucking cringe. I don't give a shit about any of this. This is fucking ridiculous.
If you don't know what love bombing is, it's when an abuser, consciously or otherwise, overloads their target with positive reinforcement so that when said reinforcement is withheld, they feel inclined to do anything to get it back.
I guess I didn't really realize that second part. I figured it was just in general that they love bomb somebody as like some kind of manipulation tactic to be like, no, I actually care about you so much, you know? Like when somebody like cheats on somebody or like hits them, like, no, I love you. It was blah, blah. You know, I figured that was more of a indicative of love bombing, but yeah.
Becoming easy.
What do I know, brothers? I know that I had to die in the game.
Easy to manipulate. This is immediately followed by Prince of Poppy talking about the rates paid to their YouTube channel's editors, who are repeatedly referred to as volunteers. So I'm not too sure about the specifics of their arrangement. But regardless of the details, the highlights of these messages is when Poppy admits that being in sexual relationships with multiple of the people working on the channel makes it more difficult to keep things functional. Call me old.
Why are you fucking around with like everybody that you work with? I understand flirting, but why are you mixing like that business like that?
Fashioned, but being in a relationship with your employees doesn't sound like a good idea.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Though I understand the temptation. My editor, for example, is in possession of an immense BBL, but I resist the temptation to keep my business afloat. Once Poppy's
incredible.
Done talking, Zena shows her true colors and essentially starts berating one of the editors for having...
I mean, even my wife and I struggle to like consistently work together because it's just, it kind of, you know, you don't necessarily, you want to have some of like your own alone time. There's nothing wrong with that. What the fuck? What is this?
On to just Poppy instead of both of them to talk about their rates, something she claimed was erasing her, prompting her to say, if anyone's behavior is not up to standards, then they will not be on this team. Now that sounds like the Zena we know. Melina, who happened to be friends with the editor who was getting berated, decided to get on voice call with them, only for Zena to start getting aggressive and yelling nonstop. Sound familiar?
Yeah, it sounds like Zena's a really good project manager. Really good project manager, Zena. BBL, Zena. BBL Zena.
Once Melina expressed concern that this may cause more issues in the future, Zena brought up the PMDD. From this point onward, perhaps noticing that Melina wasn't as malleable as other people, Zena became distrustful and even paranoid, in fear that information was being gathered on Poppy and Zena for an eventual expose thread. Turns
Wow, if you're afraid of that, then that must mean that you're aware that your behavior is not good.
out Zena was right, almost as if she was self-aware that she was an abuser, fated to eventually be
You're right.
exposed.
Exactly, brother.
Just a day later, Zena began doing the same routine she did to Spawn, deliberately not clarifying the tone of text messages and rejecting any attempt from Melina to get on voice chat to minimize miscommunication. It's not too worth it to get into the details surrounding it, but Zena and Melina went back and forth for
Zena and Melina.
a long time, with Zena repeatedly implying that while the PMDD excused her attitude, no conditions or triggers could excuse Melina's. This entire
Damn. So all of their shortcomings are excused by their fucking disorder that I'm not even convinced they have. But no one else's behavior could possibly be excused by anything. That's fucking crazy.
everything is so cancer. The conflict between them drove a wedge between Melina and Poppy as well, though the relationship was already fated to fail because Poppy was revealed to be a lot less comfortable with polyamory than they pretended to be. Soon after,
What? What the fuck?
Melina mentioned that they
And why are they doing the polyamory thing?
were going to see another partner, Poppy began producing issues out of thin air about how this should have been talked about earlier, though it was clear that the real problem was that Melina was giving someone else attention.
So what? Poppy wanted to date their girlfriend and then also date other people, but didn't want the other people that were dating to date other people. Sounds like typical male behavior. I'm not, well, I forgot they were trans. That has nothing to do with them being trans. I'm just saying that sounds like a male behavior. I'm sorry. I wasn't supposed to be transphobic. I'm not being transphobic. I'm just saying.
This is a pattern we're going to see with Poppy actually being polygamous instead of polyamorous, meaning they want multiple partners. But the rule is that they have to all be solely loyal to Poppy. Not only is this noticeable with Melina,
I mean, did they make that explicitly clear, or I guess if the other person agrees, like whatever, I don't care.
but Poppy publicly expressed discomfort at the sight of another partner of theirs, Sage, interacting in a sexual manner with another user, though we'll get to Sage later. This is textbook
I'm so excited for Sage.
stuff here. First, they love bomb, then, when any kind of issue comes up, they demand unquestioning submission, and if it's not given, they start cutting the person off and making snarky subtweets to psychologically terrorize them. After incessantly messaging
Do they have like a small toxic audience that bullies people on Twitter? Because I've noticed about a lot of unsuccessful YouTubers like Keffels, that they have a lot of followers that are obnoxious on Twitter, but no meaningful career path. So they're just generating people who love being mean and hateful, so they can bully other people. And that's pretty much it.
Poppy and Zena over the course of weeks to try and patch things up between them, and after Poppy continued leading them on and feeding them false hope, Zena finally dropped the hammer, saying, "You still don't take us seriously, do you? You can't make decisions for me with PMDD. I don't need you in that way, and I don't want you in on my PMDD.
Damn, that sounds like a real hot commodity, having PMTD, according to this.
I don't think you have the skills to deal with me or Poppy during any kind of mental triggers." Yeah, I don't think anyone has those skills, to be honest.
I don't think anybody, even if you have the skills, I don't think that you should necessarily have to deal with that.
Zena calls skills to deal with them during mental triggers actually just means putting up with her bullshit. It adds to the overall
That's what it sounds like.
absurdity that this was said in response to Melina trying to better understand how these conditions affected them. So, you can't ignore the conditions, but you also can't try to understand how they work to prevent them from causing unnecessary conflicts. You can only believe in what Poppy and Zena say because they'd never lie to you. That, or they don't want to establish
But if they do, it's just their magical, potentially made up mental health issues.
how these conditions affect them, because then they can't blame random acts of abuse on the conditions anymore. To top it all off, Zena actually tries to frame Melina doing research into PMDD as if it were a violation of consent. And
What? Why wouldn't you want to research your partner's issues?
I have absolutely no idea how that works.
What the fuck?
My guess is
I
that
try to look up stuff about PCOS too with my wife. What the fuck? Well, I imagine if it's because they educate themselves on this person's illness or, you know, whatever, they'd realize they don't actually have it potentially.
Melina looking into how PMDD works made Zena feel like a scammer getting audited. Someone's about to uncover their racket. After they
That is what it sounds like to me.
broke up and Melina left the server, Zena proceeded to post on the server informing everyone about what happened. But of course, framing Melina as a toxic person in a variety of ways, none of which reflected what actually went down. A while after their relationship was over and done with, Poppy and Zena continued to rub it in by bringing it up on stream and further besmirching Melina to their audience, only to brush it off when
Wow, they really taken this breakup real well.
confronted about it, pretending they were actually talking about someone else. Around the same period, Poppy, in a decision influenced by reading lesbian fanfiction,
What?
decided to get bottom surgery and create a GoFundMe to finance it. One
Is that actually something that they... Okay. Or is that just being transphobic a little bit? I mean, I don't really care. This person's a bad person, so...
that was successful. It was followed by yet another
I might have said that in the text that was on the screen, but I have no interest in reading it. I know it's lazy, but I don't care.
fundraiser, this time for a facial feminization procedure. As small as they were, P&Z had a pretty faithful audience, and Melina's thread didn't do that much damage to their perception in the community. However, much more people also came forward.
Well, it sounds like they've done a really good job at priming their audience to not care about bad behavior because, oh, well, they're just a big old victim because they have pee, you know?
Following Melina. The first person who really got the ball rolling on Poppy and Zena's demise was Noah Flake, about whom a Google Doc was made containing an exhaustive amount of their online interactions, showing Poppy doing the same thing they did to Melina, guilt-tripping them about their other partners. Poppy claimed that just seeing one of their own partners online actually gave them a panic attack, and that's just the tip of the iceberg of insane
Oh shit, the panic attack because you saw somebody online. That's fucking so relatable, dude. Okay.
jealousy. The self-obsessed BPD maniac posting was compounded by the fact that, as mentioned earlier, Poppy claims to be plural, and actually has multiple Twitter accounts.
Claims to be plural, dude. That's fucking amazing. That's amazing, dude. It's so cool. I love it so much.
That interact with one another, publicly talking about the people they're in relationships with and tagging them to make sure they see it. By far, Poppy's obsession with Noah Flake was the worst one, counting the hours until they got to meet. I'll also make a brief caveat here that Poppy referred to Noah Flake as mom, which I just found really weird. The doc has a lot of Discord exchanges between them, which I won't read because neither of us deserve that much torture, but
Okay.
Poppy repeatedly flips from an age-regressed, needy personality to a hyper-aggressive, jealous, and demanding one.
I don't know, man. I don't get the whole pretending to be a kid thing. That's fucking crazy to me.
Shorten a ridiculously complicated story involving two plural people and their constant switching alters.
Shit, dude.
It's a complicated story
Definitely two heads going on here. Sorry, this is a little appropriate.
involving two plural people and their constant switching alters. It seems Noah Flake got sick of the pressure to give Poppy attention all the time and always explicitly reschedule whenever they weren't going to do that. So they broke things off. Or at least they tried to. It's never that easy with Poppy. The breakup crushed Poppy, who was in peak obsession with Noah Flake.
Oh my god, how did they get so... I feel like you having a bunch of partners, that should make you not care as much about people breaking up with you, unless Poppy's using being polyamorous as an excuse or as a way to subsidize a failing relationship. Wow. Who would ever think that's true?
And Zena decided to step in, attempting to gaslight Noah about it. In one exchange, when Noah communicates that Poppy is demanding 100% of their time and energy, Zena simply claims that it hasn't happened, and proceeds to blame Noah for Poppy's meltdown using the good old BPD excuse.
The old BBL.
I'm not even sure what Zena was trying to do here. Argue Noah into unbreaking up with Poppy? How could anything good ever come of that?
Well, remember, they're rape gender, so that sounds like something a rapist would do, is constantly be aggressive about somebody breaking up with them. Sorry, I know that's fucking rude, but I'm not over that whole fucking comment before shaming somebody else because you sexually harassed them over the internet. It's fucking crazy.
And to add to the general derangedness of the situation, Zena tries to guilt trip Noah about them agreeing to be the parent to a kid. The kid not being Spawn, but instead being one of Poppy's alters.
Oh fucking goddamn! I don't even know what to say anymore. Why? Why are you the person that you are? Is like my question. What the fuck is that? Be a parent to my altar? I'm really happy that I am who I am. You know, if you ever sit down and you're like, I wish I was somebody else. I wish I was rich. Just be happy you're not Poppy, because that's fucking insane. Is this the same Poppy that Vosh sexually harassed? Because then I kind of get it, you know? Wait, is this actually the same Poppy that Vosh harassed? Because then then I might not care anymore. Which Poppy did Vouch harass? Is this the Poppy that Voosh? It might actually be. It's not the same Poppy? Okay. You don't think so? All right. If it was the same Poppy, then I would frankly not give a shit that Vosh did it, because this person's clearly something wrong with them. They're clearly overly sexual. So, but you know, I could just be wrong. I might just be wrong. Let's just move on from that point. You know,
I can't make this up. Unfortunately, Noah fell for the guilt trip and re-added Poppy, and the following message was written by a 41-year-old grown-up person. Runs
I'm ready for it.
over for hugs. I love you, and you can't
Why? Why'd you have to add that flavor? That's fucking crazy.
go. You scared me, but I accept your apology. Squeezes you tightly.
Wow, incredible. Italics and everything.
Admittedly, there's a lot of context and conversation surrounding this, but this part really takes the cake. I'm going insane
I love you. I missed you. Leans into you. I really can't wait to see you. Even after all this, I just want to see your face.
reading this. After a bunch of age-regressed, weepy guilt tripping,
Just no.
Poppy sends a random selfie, apparently to elicit some kind of emotion from Noah Flake.
It's a terrible fucking selfie, by the way. Could have done something more.
Ultimately failing, prompting even more weepy guilt tripping, which, mind you, went on for 15 hours straight at one point.
Wow, I was reading that.
More
too.
weepy guilt
I sent the pic earlier. Did my face bring up anything? You did. Any emotion? You are pretty, but no.
tripping, which, mind you, went
Looks down.
on for 15
I can only hope that you feel different seeing me in
hours
person.
straight at one point.
I have to hope.
All of this was done to convince Noah Flake to meet with Poppy in real life at a hotel. And I'll add that not only were they begging for Noah to come, but they also
Whoa!
paid for the flight to get there and the hotel stay, almost $1,000 worth of costs in total. When
Damn, and you're fucking gaslighting your kid over expenses? That's fucking crazy.
they finally did meet, they had a sexual encounter initiated by Poppy.
Well, why the fuck? I mean, you know what Poppy wants, so why the fuck would this other person decide to meet up with them?
But Noah immediately regretted it and finally broke up. Poppy didn't
Damn.
like that, not one bit. On the 23rd of December, this tweet was posted with Poppy saying, "You broke a mentally ill woman for fun after your headmate was emotionally abusive to me, and you abandoned a child because it was convenient after you sexually took advantage of Poppy to see if you still loved her." Pepper can't be found in Headspace and did
I just feel like there's so many things I want to say that I can't. I just don't. This is crazy. People like this existing doesn't make. I don't know why they need to. I mean, I'm not trying to be rude. What the fuck? You really said all these things? What is wrong with you? You're a fucking adult. What the fuck? I wonder what's going on with Spawn. I hope they're okay. I don't want, because, you know, unfortunately, sometimes, you know, people turn out like their parents, and you don't want this person to turn out like their fucking parent. This is insane.
it is your
Yeah, the child's her alter ego, just to be clear. Okay, there's not a real child. It's just their alter ego.
fault. And what did we get? Emotional harm, a lot of tears, and possibly a UTI. Well, I
Clean your fucking wiener better, or pussy. They had bottom surgery, right? So, I mean, you got to keep that thing clean, man. Sis.
have no idea about the UTI. Again, it was Poppy's decision to pay for all of these things, and it was Poppy and Zena pressuring Noah Flake to show up and behave as if they were still together. Poppy even went as far as to claim that Noah owed them money for the flight as if it was their idea. Soon after came more accusations of Noah Flake being abusive, even sexually abusive, in an assault by deception kind of way.
Would you not know they're trans? I don't know. I don't
They
understand.
suggested Noah was an absent parent, again in reference to her child alter, and seethed
Dude, what the fuck? There's no way that this person is saying that unironically. This is insane. It's insanity.
a lot
It's insane.
about them having partners besides Poppy, an obvious violation of the whole polyamory thing, but at this point, who's really counting? There's also walls upon walls of text messages Poppy sent Noah over Discord, which I will
I'd call the fucking police, frankly. I mean, we have another baby reindeer situation here. This is actually unhinged.
bless myself with not having to read because they're just stalker tier drivel not worthy of attention. This is your brain on 10,000 years of roleplay, folks. People just become fanfiction characters in real life and purposely fill their lives with demented drama.
This is my thing. Is I like some of the people who do like all this like fan fiction stuff. If you ever see the TikTok lives of people playing fucking Yu-Gi-Oh with the fucking arm things. They're kind of awesome. And they're like, he's like, I do 1,000 points of damage to your directly to your life points. And the guy's like, he's keeling over. That's fucking cool. But this is insane. This is actually way over the goddamn lines. Don't let conservatives find out about this, because they're going to start signal boosting. This is the typical trans experience to be fucking transphobic. I'm not even kidding. Like, these people are bizarre. They're not the typical trans experience, just to be clear. But this is incredible. It's insane.
This is a technically middle-aged person actually reposting cringe, sad illustrations and tagging their ex. Once the news that Poppy accused Noah of SA because they didn't continue dating after having sex hit the community, it finally got a lot of people's attention because of how obviously reprehensible, confusing, and what is even going on? Unlike Noah, Poppy and Zena had a small community to whom they spread their narrative, effectively committing defamation since they were accusing an innocent person of sexual abuse.
Yeah, but then once it goes out to everybody else, it's going to explode into a different way.
As some people began
And they probably got away with it for so long that like they feel too bold about it.
rallying to Noah's defense, showing that Poppy was pressuring and badgering Noah to give in to their demands. Other people who had experiences with P and Z decided to come forward as well. One of these people was a former associate of theirs, Dormiu, who recounted their visit to the P and Z household.
And look, they're a dog person. We can't even like them fully because they're a goddamn dog person, but they're somehow still the hero of the story.
Poppy maintained a habit of staying up until around 5 or 6 in the morning in the office, the room I was sleeping in. The issue was compounded by the fact that I needed to be out of the room by 11 a.m. so Poppy could attend appointments for clients. I was consistently running on about 5 hours of sleep for the whole week, and as
I'm just wondering, like, legitimately, is this person actually a therapist or just the rapist? No, are they a therapist, or do they just do some kind of counseling on like Patreon or something? You know what I mean?
As a result, I was overly emotional and had trouble keeping stable. But the lack of sleep was nothing compared to the real reason I'm writing this thread. To make it clear, I was 18 at the time and I'm only 19 now, and Poppy and I's dynamic was entirely platonic and non-sexual. In the first few days, an incident occurred wherein Poppy had been getting changed and I had been in the living room. Poppy emerged wearing a shirt, underwear, and no pants. I looked away as I would naturally. Poppy noticed this, and her response was what upset me. Poppy chided me for averting my eyes and invoked my weird asexual bullshit. I am
what?
Ace, but this had nothing to do with it.
I mean, it's weird that there's okay, whatever.
Later in the week, I was painting, sitting at Zena's desk in the office, and Poppy had just gotten out of the shower. She came into the office all but naked and sat down opposite me.
What is wrong with this person? It's like they are desperate for people to think that they're attractive.
I looked up to greet her. I only then noticed that she was topless in front of me, and I immediately looked away, shocked. Poppy then, in an almost confused tone, said, "What? They're my tits." I did not consent to see Poppy in any degree of undress, and she knowingly flashed me while I was a guest in her home. Zena overheard from the kitchen and asked what had happened. When the hilarious anecdote about Poppy exposing herself to me was relayed to Zena, they laughed it off. Just a few days after this,
I mean, the first time seemed to be an accident, but then after that, it's like their response was, "Oh, I want to be naked around them again and see what they say or they do." It's like fucking with them in some capacity, possibly trying to prompt sex out of them, but possibly just trying to fuck with them and just like push boundaries for no reason.
This drama began to get traction in the community. Sage, another one of Poppy's partners, began defending them and accusing Noah of SA, as well as painting everyone who'd back Noah up as a bandwagon.
It's gonna be crazy once this person also gets like fucking accusations against them, and they're gonna be like, "Wait, never mind." You know?
Now, there is some lore that I don't think is particularly worth getting into regarding Sage, but I do think it's relevant that screenshots eventually came out that showed Sage aiding Poppy in acclimating minors to explicit stuff on their Discord server.
What does that mean? New Poppy and penis art, penny art. Okay, it's fine. Interject. I'm not acting or admin or model right now. Really sorry if I come off rude, but I think this might be a tiny bit spicy of a server with minors in it. I feel like it would hit the questionable rating on. Okay, so it sounds like they put some kind of weird fucking like risque picture in there, potentially porn, where there are minors in it, and people are like, "Hey, this is inappropriate," which is absolutely true.
Basically, Poppy was deliberately posting not safe for work furry art, and I use that word loosely,
art
in the safe for work sections of their server, and Sage was defending them doing
well, I don't think that they should have not safe for work sections in a server with fucking minors have access to it. That's crazy.
this. Make of this what you will, but believe me, it gets worse. Someone under the name Brit Galaxy Brain on Tumblr made a post saying, "Poppy indirectly reached out to me in 2022 to offer her platform to help spread awareness of the individual this blog was made to keep an eye on. Poppy looked at all the evidence I had at the time, it has since grown and gotten much worse, and acknowledged the obvious danger teenager involved. This person, Lily Orchard, has a load of documented evidence dating back to 2008 and a ton of personal testimonies proving she is a PDF file,
Oh my god.
a zoo file, and
Oh my god. Just fuck the dogs. You know what I mean? Like, that's terrible to say, but like, leave the kids alone. If you gotta fuck something, you want to fuck a dog, fine. You know what I mean? Don't fuck kids. That's a terrible thing. It's disgusting. Don't fuck kid dogs either. You know, at least wait for them to grow up. At least wait for the dogs to be grown. You know what I'm saying? I'm just fucking around.
a serial abuser. Poppy acknowledged this. Instead
Damn, man, I abuse cereal sometimes. That's why I have fucking diabetes, man.
of sticking to her word, she defended Lily against the PDF file allegations in public. Despite seeing the chat logs of Lily admitting to being attracted to children on top of the multiple graphic CP fan fictions she has written, Poppy picked multiple
Yeah, but she's actually the minor, and she's really an adult, and that means that...
arguments with me because I refused to stop calling Lily what she is. I got sick of it and left. Last year, Poppy got in contact with Lily's sibling, whom Lily abused between the ages of 6 and 14.
Kid was between 6 and 14? What the fuck? How old were they?
And wrote into damn near every work of fiction she's ever created.
What? The fuck?
Poppy attempted to get involved with Lily's
I don't even know what to say anymore. This stuff is just so heinous. This is fucking insane. What is happening here?
siblings, as well as myself, even going as far as to send incestuous, furry, not safe for work stuff to Courtney. Let me reiterate, Poppy sent incest porn to a survivor of incest.
Wow. Why? Why? Why would you do that? Did they ask you to? I couldn't believe that. I don't know, man, because I mean, I don't know if we're getting the whole story, you know, because this is like a breakdown of it. But I mean, is this just a constant, like, you know, the asexual person sees him naked and like was like, oh, I don't want to see that kind of a thing, so they decide to be more sexually aggressive in front of them to like taunt them, and now you're sending fucking incest porn to somebody who is apparently abused by like their I think sister or, you know, their sibling, their older sibling, I'm assuming. It's like, what are you doing? Like, what's the end game here? Like, what's the joke? What's the funny? What is? I don't get what's happening here. Like, what the fuck? What is the benefit in your brain of doing all this behavior?
These are very serious accusations and an entirely different can of worms, but it's definitely relevant to Poppy's case. Not only has Courtney, the person mentioned in that text as supposedly being the victim of Lily Orchard, personally backed these accusations up, but Poppy has publicly supported incest as well. Additionally,
Hot take, I don't give a shit about incest kinks. We live in an age where you can abort the little fuckers or wear a condom as long as there's no power dynamic and no coercion. Enjoy your kink. Judge me all you want, but it's only weird because you're uncomfortable. I mean, I don't care about incest kinks necessarily, but like actual incest is not good. You know what I mean? Like, whatever, you want to roleplay a fucking weirdo. I mean, I guess I don't really care that much. I don't have a strong opinion on two consenting adults when it comes to just the kink. I'm assuming they just mean pretending that they're fucking their mom or something, you know?
an old F list of Poppy's,
I mean, have you seen my mom? She's pretty hot. Okay.
which was
All right, enough, dude. That's good. We're going a little too far here, dude.
unfortunately archived, contained interests with incest in a specified age range that went as low as 14.
Why?
Remember that whole thing of Poppy calling Noah mom? Yeah. Last but not
Mommy.
least, Poppy was also exposed for having shared Spawn's medical records on Discord without their consent and leaked the full name of a client of theirs to their entire Discord chat, violating patient confidentiality.
So, like, I don't think I ever got the thing. Are they actually, like, a therapist? And who the fuck is hiring this person? That's insane.
Both of which are actual crimes. Mind you, at this time, P&Z were trying to frame all of their accusers as part of a cyber harassment campaign guilty of doxing Poppy simply by using the name they practiced under. One of the most
Incredible.
concerning allegations that came out in this wave was from a tweet that read, Poppy also helped to hide Lorelei Bailey, another predator and a federal informant of trans femmes, when it was revealed she was in charge of major survivor resource communities and was trying to build influence in political spheres. In the replies, the poster attached screenshots of Poppy interacting with the supposed alt accounts of this person, said to be a rapist and FBI informant, and at one point, Poppy's partner.
It's getting a little convoluted to me. There's a lot going on here at this point.
There are so many different cans of worms to open when talking about every misdeed of Poppy and Zena that it's impossible to tackle them all at once, and I bet more will come out after this video. But with all of these people attacking them, it begs the question, who was still on their side? Well, my best friend and love interest,
Okay, is this real?
Tipster, for one. Tippy was caught lacking when he was called out for liking some of Poppy's horny tweets.
Tipster, good afternoon, everyone. What's the first thing you would do if you had me strapped down to a bed? He liked that one.
Despite being married, and somehow this turned into Poppy being the victim, culminating in a mass flagging campaign.
Everyone, I need this tweet. This tweet mass reported for harassment. The comments are filled with people misgendering me, attacking my identity, and ignoring my sexuality. Right, rape gender, of course. Just they can attack another
Campaign
YouTuber.
on Boblax's tweet. Another Poppy defender is my greatest fan, Keffels, who collaborated with Poppy and Zena to make anti-Kiwi Farms content, but that relationship also seems to have cooled off as time passed, and Poppy kept dragging Keffels into unrelated
All right, so it sounds like they're not
drama.
It sounds like they're not super supporters or related to P and Z anymore. It was just like a brief stint of like, hey, a trans person, let me support them, like without doing any actual digging and seeing if they're a good person, because that's what we do here. And then they're like, oops, it turns out they're not a good person. Oh, by the way, I'm pansexual now.
At the end of the day,
By the way, I'm like 40 and I decided I'm pansexual. Like, definitely crazy.
Poppy and Zena were alone to deal with the consequences of their actions, and the community they'd spent years catering to turned their backs on them. At some point, Noah Flake called Poppy's in real life place of employment and left a complaint, and I don't know if
That's funny.
this was the direct cause of what I'm about to say, but Poppy was given an ultimatum. Either they would have to stop streaming permanently, or Poppy was going to lose their job. The
Probably want to stop the streaming because it's not successful at all.
job was what kept the lights on and the kitchen counter moldy. These two lived in New
Okay.
York and were paying for flights and hotel rooms for their multiple sexcapades, so I'm assuming the job paid well. However, Poppy refused to stop streaming, sealing their fate for good. Of course,
Why? I feel like they don't make that much money. Like, I just looked at their page. There's no way it does well enough for them to justify that.
this was painted as a violation of their civil liberties and transphobia. But at this point,
Hey, listen, if they did it to Jordan Peterson, they could do it to you too, all right? What the hell?
Poppy and Zena's words were falling on deaf ears. They continued to have an online presence, yelling into the void about how Noah Flake was evil.
Ooh, true. Thank you so much for the $5 from Blossoms. Hey, Papa, quick question. Would you get banned on Twitch for directly funneling viewers to YouTube where you dual stream? What are the boundaries for that? Right. So, like, I don't know if you get banned. It is against... You're allowed to do a multi-stream on Twitch. You're, like, typically not allowed to explicitly ask, like, hey, come on over from here. I looked at this a while ago. They frown upon it. I don't know if they would ban you for the behavior. But, like, they want you to, like, be interactive on Twitch chat. Right? So they don't want you to just use it as a way to pull people over to another place. But you can dual stream. So that's, like, you know, as much as I really know. I don't dual stream. I have no interest in dual stream. I don't even think it would be necessary or productive. I like my streams. But yeah, thank you so much for the small gut from Big Macklemore. It's just Big Mac, thank you.
Surprisingly, no legal ramifications ever came of those allegations, since if Poppy told the story to a judge, they'd either get laughed out of court, or the judge would die like a Victorian child getting yellow fever. Just having to
What?
learn about all of this is too much for an old man to handle. Poppy
True, I could agree with that.
can still technically
Or an old woman. Or an old non-binary. Let's not be fucking transphobic here, guys.
practice as a counselor, since their license appears to continue to be valid, but I doubt anyone will want to employ someone like that. Most
Well, they'll probably do like self-employing, and then they probably decide to like they probably decided that they would quit their job or whatever, and then they would just find like clients themselves. You know, I wonder how good they are at their job potentially. What the actual fucking dog balls is going on right now?
recently, Noah Flake was interviewed by a YouTube channel called Bagman Burns, retelling the story from their point of view. You'd think that after all of this, Poppy and
How do I get into the spot? Oh wait.
Zena would have some degree of self-reflection about their behavior, but no, not even a little bit. The only way they'd ever consider the possibility they're a bad person is if it's to self-flagellate for empathy, or to immediately follow it up by blaming everyone else. So much
Based alert. I got Bill Rizzler. Wow.
for the wholesome degenerates, but I tried. I've been Turkey Tom, thanks for watching, and until next time, leave me alone.
Oh, it's a woman. All right, incredible stuff. Good video.